Many people say, well, I like Donald Trump because he didn't start any new wars. You ever hear this? I hear it a lot, especially lately. You know what? I probably used to say it. It just dawned on me, though, today that Donald Trump started what could be called the biggest, most destructive, and divisive war the world has ever seen. It could be one of them, if not the biggest. I'm talking about COVID and the VACCINE. It destroyed relationships and potentially people at an unprecedented height. I mean, it just dawned on me today. I didn't ever really think of it that way. But when you look back, and it's still doing it, it's still destroying relationships, and it's still dividing people and dividing a country and dividing the world, quite frankly, into two camps. I mean, did you get it or did you not get it? Into two camps. Do you believe in the VACCINE or do you not believe in it? And now we've got more people than ever arguing the efficacy of vaccines, which, by the way, is a really good thing, to be honest. We need more eyeballs on that stuff, right? This is what was so frustrating to many people, including myself, was that there was no open debate. I mean, science is never settled. Some doctors believed it was effective, some and recommended it to their patients. Some doctors didn't, but we didn't hear that on the national stage. This is when you know some bullshit's going down, and you know you're being propagandized, and you know that you are being coerced into doing something that benefits someone. Nothing is ever settled in the human experience. There's one word, and I say this all the time, that describes the human experience, and that is oops. Human beings get it wrong, get it wrong, get it wrong, get it right. Get it wrong, get it wrong, get it right, get it right, get it wrong. We get it wrong a lot. It could be argued that we get it wrong all the time, that we're always groping in the dark for truth and reality and like the ultimate way things should be. Consciousness is always evolving and expanding. This is why many people were calling bullshit on the COVID thing, right? We got to be talking about these things at a bigger level, but it just dawned on me today that many people say that, and they stand on that as being one of the pillars that makes Donald Trump so special. And again, I used to be pro-Trump. I voted for him twice. And the reason was because I'm not a big fan of career politicians. I'm not a big fan of politicians in general, because I see nothing going. The trend is never positive. The national debt is never going down. Wars are never cycling down or ending. They just get bigger and bigger and bigger and better, faster killing machines. I see divisiveness continuing to rise. I see war between genders, between races continuing to rise, between nations. I see tensions rising. I see more encroachment on civil liberties. So see, I have a bad taste in my mouth for politicians, because the trend is always they get more, we get less. I also see the wealth transfer getting greater from the 99% or middle class, lower class, to the upper 1%. During COVID time, it was incredible. Bill Gates said they did 10 years of technological advance, or 10 years of technology, moving into technology and technology adoption, I guess would be the right word, in 2 years. That's some bullshit. That seems artificial to me. That seems artificial to me in a big way. And I don't like it. And my job as a human being is, when I see something, to say something. And I'm saying something. Many people are saying something, So this Trump thing, was Trump the only U.S. president in 72 years to not have a war? That's Snopes. Love him or hate him, Trump's defense legacy is, you're talking about how he didn't have any new wars. But again, I look at the war in a different way. See, a lot of people just look at bombs and bullets in a war, and I look at the like psychological warfare, information warfare, spiritual warfare, financial warfare. I believe we're in financial warfare. Again, back to what I was saying earlier. Politicians appear to be subtly and not so subtly continually attacking in warfare tactics Americans and humanity. I'm digging in and finding the horrific numbers of my fellow human beings, brothers and sisters, that were killed in these wars that ensued after 9/11 and before. 4.5 million since 9/11 in Afghanistan, Iraq, Libya, Somalia, Yemen. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. But war is not just bombs and bullets. War is anything that destroys, in my opinion, if you want to broaden the definition. War is destructive. War destroys an enemy. And when you talk about it in the grander war that's going on, the war with a capital T and a capital W, the battle between good and evil, that's a war, right? And sophisticated warfare is intellectual warfare, financial warfare, spiritual warfare, psychological warfare, right? Making your enemy defeat themselves. If this is a fallen world and Satan and his agents run this world, wouldn't it be in their benefit, and wouldn't it be next level warfare, like when you advanced warfare to make your enemy destroy themselves? Sure. A while back, I shared a video about RFK Jr. It was a live stream, actually. Phenomenal. You should go check it out if you haven't checked it out. It's something every American should know, and every human being should know. All of the funny business, and funny business I mean in a super sick, demented way, that the CIA has been up to since their inception in 1950. Talks about the first Operation Paperclip, and then goes on to say, they spraying bullshit in the air. Let's just say that, Their sketch. I look at it, and everything they do is a form of warfare. Let's educate these kids. Well, I look at that as indoctrination, and not teaching them how to think, teaching them what to think. Again, if you look at everything through the lens of this is a fallen world, everything becomes very clear. Very, very clear. And you look at Foster Graham's pyramid of control and structure, in the money system, or I forget what the other one is called. It's the pyramid of control, where you have banks, but his is a good one. His has all the scenarios, bankers, corporations, political entities, policing entities, and then the lower level is all of the quote unquote people. And everything is designed to control. It's a pyramid scheme, right? It's a pyramid scam. With a person at the top, and I call that person Satan. And then Satan's got all of his little agents, anyone who's willing to manage or control humanity, they get a leg up in the system, and they sometimes get put in positions of power. Mark Fitzpatrick talked about this when I interviewed him recently, again, on my YouTube channel at G. Mark Phillips, and he talked about that Satan likes to put people in positions of power that are on his team so he can, get them to deceive and lie to the rest of us. This is why God gave us discernment and intuition. And it would be in our benefit to turn that intuition and discernment on and keep it at a high level all the time. I'm working on more shorts and sharing little small bits. And one of the shorts that I'm going to do is, if I was a pastor, every time my congregation came through the front door, I would tell them, hey, look, this is a fallen world. And in a fallen world, the devil and his agents are trying to get one over on you at best and really, really hurt you at worst. So keep an eye out, use your discernment, use your spidey sense, use your intuition, ask God for wisdom and guidance and knowledge to help you navigate your life so that you can fulfill the mission God gave you using the talents God gave you. I would tell that to my congregation every single day because I never want them to become complacent in a fallen world. Excuse me. I never want them to go through life sleepwalking because you could potentially skin your knee or fall down or get poked in the eye with a branch. I mean, there's a myriad of different things that could happen to a human being in a fallen world if they're not paying attention and walking with God every day. So that's what I'd tell my congregation if I was a pastor. But this whole Trump thing, super detrimental. Again, if your goal, and I believe it's not even a conspiracy theory. The New World Order. I know we're going to get the ticker now. Whenever you say that, you get the thing on YouTube that says, "Oh, they tell you what to think." Back to what I was saying, they want you not thinking because they want to think for you, right? They want a slave system where millions of human beings do exactly what they're told. Basically, they're servants to those higher ups. They're working in the mines, they're working in the, whatever other industries, moving the oil. It's a class system. They want to be at the top of the pyramid with that one guy, and everyone else is running the world, right? And they're stealing wealth, and they're stealing, putting us in fear state. And it's a whole big business deal. It's a whole big business system. The drill. Donald Trump was not an anti-war president. Again, my understanding is he facilitated the refueling of planes in Yemen, right? Remember, Saudi is, my understanding, is bombing Yemen because of some reason, right? There's always killing going on, That's the one, the active thing that I know he was doing. But again, and then someone replied on the post I made the other day, and they said, he didn't have this. And I told the person, I said, because his bosses, his owners, the people who he works for didn't want that. Like, they clearly want to set him up in a way that makes him look desirable. It's always pulling strings. There's people pulling strings in this world. And again, it goes back up to that one dude, Satan. This is my realization. And I only came to this conclusion in 2022 or 2023. I wasn't raised thinking this way. I wasn't told this by any of my family members or anyone that I'd ever encountered. And I'll tell you something, if I would have been told it, I would have called them crazy because I hadn't seen it. See, COVID times showed me evil in the world, even though it's always been there, right? Perhaps you're like that too. Your eyes opened. Many people's eyes got opened during COVID. I've never seen, or they've always been this many. No, I haven't ever seen this many people sharing information and knowledge, esoteric, behind the scenes, things that the mainstream media doesn't talk about how the world is. I've never seen so many people sharing this stuff. It's unbelievable, to be quite honest. That's why I created the Great Awakening. There is a Great Awakening happening. I feel it. Many people feel it. People are talking about topics they've never talked about before. It's wild. It's wild. But I told that person, I said, they're his owners. The thing of it is, why is it so difficult for some people to get their mind around this fact that these presidents have people that they work for, and the people they work for are the people that give them money during the campaign, right? Pfizer and some pharmaceutical companies gave him $1 million. Trump works for those people now, right? Part of the people that he quote unquote works for is the American people, because we pay him 400 and some odd thousand, which I think he didn't even take, to be honest. That's some sketchy ass behavior when I look at it through my eyes now. At the time, I was like, that's a really noble thing to do. But in a fallen world where every human being needs money and is enslaved to one degree or another into the beast system, that is wild. My belief now is that if you are super uber wealthy, like, okay, let's take the wealthiest person, whoever that is, Bezos, Musk, whoever else, and then go down the chain. At some point on the wealth continuum of the superest wealthiest person and the poorest person, at some point I think it does cross over into from evil and or corrupt to not to good and not corrupt. I mean, at some point down there, because again, we're looking at the pyramid of structure, pyramid of power, and how power is exerted on the masses, right? That are asleep to varying degrees. And again, speaking from my own experience, I did not see what was going on prior to this, even though many people have been talking about it for a long time. Makes perfect sense to me now, though. Everything makes perfect sense to me now. When you look at, again, going back to the fact that there was no open discussion on that VACCINE. People lost their jobs. Again, weapon of mass destruction and division. They lost their jobs. They divided family members, friendships, relationships. I remember I've read a number of horrific, sad comments on various videos about say a couple is, divorced or separated. The woman wants to give the vax, the guy doesn't, and both of them really are rooted in their beliefs about whether they do or don't want to. And then one of those people ends up winning, and it creates mental and emotional anguish for the other person. Can you even imagine the frustration of sharing a child with someone who has a different belief than you about that thing? My contention is that nothing created to heal or help should ever, ever, ever damage those relationships, because that's the glue that holds society together. It's the glue that holds humanity together. Again, united we stand, divided we fall. All I have to do to know that there's some sketchy players in the world, and I believe he's one of them, Donald Trump, is to look at the results. Humanity is more divided, feels more divided than I've ever sensed it. Tensions are higher than I've ever felt. I've got a tweet in my drafts that talking about the feeling that I get that humanity, the United States and the world, is a tinderbox ready to go up in flames at any time. That's what it feels like to me. It's wild. It's absolutely wild. Again, thinking differently about what warfare is, what a new WORLD would do and could do if they wanted to enslave humanity. What strategies and tactics could they do? Well, if you want to enslave or win a war against someone, the more divided they are, the better. The more fighting amongst themselves, the better. The easier your job, because if it's true that there's just a very small group of people, and I believe that it is, that are trying to exert force and exert themselves over humanity, they could never do it if all cards were on the table. They have to use deception, right? They have to use subtle warfare. They have to use silent weapons for quiet wars. A silent weapon for a quiet war is division within families and friendships. No one knows the damage that is happening, but it is happening, right? People aren't talking to one another. Support systems break down. Fights happen, verbal or physical. I mean, it's super detrimental. I just always look at the results. I mean, if nothing made to be good will give you a bad result, right? The seed and the fruit are the same. The seed, you can't plant a seed of health and healing and have a fruit of divisiveness and destruction and an unhealthy cohesive glue that holds humanity together. A unity, right? I believe it was Martin Luther King that talked about agape, right? This like brotherly love of humanity and an affinity and like a, we're all connected. We're divided and disconnected, right? Because egos got involved and pride gets involved. And then again, back to my point. That's why I went to Christianity, because I was like, holy shit, all this stuff lines up. Pride really does go before a fall, right? All of these destructive things that are happening, people getting themselves operated on so they can change the way their body looks so it can match what's happening in their mind. Has anyone ever stopped to think that maybe their mind could be all jacked up and all twisted in on itself? I know that whenever I'm having problems in the world, either with business or relationships or health or whatever else, it's always a mind problem. Louise Hay said, I never fix problems in the world. I fix my thinking, and then those problems fix themselves. That's part of One Life, the guide that I created to help people live their life on purpose and do their purpose and work in the world, because that's what humanity needs right now, is for everybody to be on their mission. That's why I started speaking up in 2022. It's because I realized bad people had hijacked attention of millions of my fellow human beings, and that's a bad thing if those human beings have a mission to create heaven on earth, right? Be very careful about who you hand over your thinking to or who you outsource your thinking to, because that person could be corrupt and or being a useful idiot to the devil and his agents. When I saw millions of people under the influence of the government and the media and the cabal, I was like, oh, we got a problem. We got a major problem. Now, if there had been no media coverage of it, no politician had mentioned of it, and if those people went and did that, I'd be fine with it, because they're under their own influence. See, I'm always happiest and feel safest when people are under their own influence. In this world, evil forces will try to influence you if you're not under your own influence. This is why it's important to be very careful about what you're watching and listening to and reading and who you're associating yourself with. Everything influences a person in this world, especially the media, especially government. They are next level manipulators. They use fear and rushing to manipulate people into doing something I will say this unequivocally, would never have done. No one saw any evidence or reason to go do that thing that I've talked to. To that level, without long-term data, without knowing what the side effects could potentially be, without knowing there's always a side effect. All you have to do is know the pharmaceutical industry a little bit to know. You've heard the commercials. You've seen these things to know that everything they do has a side effect. It's weird. And the side effects in many cases are super sketchy. In some cases, worse than having the symptom or the thing itself. And they never solve problems. They just mask it up. Everything about it was weird. This is why I'm so passionate and fired up about it. The more I think about it, the more pieces that plug in. Government has lied to us numerous times. There were no weapons of mass destruction. They steal our money and give it to their friends on Wall Street whenever Wall Street goes bust. And so Wall Street benefits twice. Once, when they're making all these risky investments and making money hand over fist, raking it in. And two, we provide a safety net for them if they ever fall. So they get paid by us and them. It's a win-win. And all that money goes to the quote unquote ruling class. It's bullshit. It's criminal. And then you throw in these corporations that put bad things. I don't want to say the POISON or TOXIN, toxins and poisons in the food. I will say it. And feed it to us, and it causes us to have health issues. It causes us to become, many people to become obese, many people to become addicted to certain foods. Body doesn't function in the optimal way. The brain doesn't think right. If our body is a tool for tuning into God and talking to God and doing God's work in the world and thinking high level, high vibration thoughts, enlightened thoughts, and doing enlightened work and inventing things and solving problems and creating services and creating experience for people, you want your body to be working in the best way possible. If your body's not working properly, you aren't working properly. This is our machine for living, right? We're like a AI robot machine, and we have consciousness and we have faculties and we have the ability to move our body in certain ways. This is our machine for living. And so you want your machine to be tuned up optimally. I didn't always used to think this way. I drank a lot of alcohol in my younger years, and I've also eaten some not so great foods. I don't do that anymore because I want my machine to be tuned in the best possible way. I'm more conscious now. And I think ideally that's what life should do to us, is wake us up. As we go through and we're constantly gathering information, we should become wiser. We should become more enlightened. It only makes sense. It only makes sense. Now I wonder whether other people are waking up in the same way that I am. I think they are. I think back to a quote of one of my heroes and inspiration, Buckminster Fuller, and he said, "Don't let life de-genius you." Right? Don't let life de-genius you. What de-geniuses you? Well, food. What could de-genius you? Food. It could either de-genius you or make you a genius. Education, same thing. Entertainment, same thing. I don't really need to watch any movies anymore. I sometimes watch little clips of funny movies on YouTube, but I don't need to watch movies anymore because the documentaries about the events that are unfolding in our world are far more interesting than anything Hollywood could write. And I don't have to deal with the actors because it's all just describing what's happening in the world. It's the wildest movie or wildest experience you'll ever know. It's like it's playing out right before our eyes. Let me know what you think about this theory in the comment section down below. And also go check out One Life. Again, One Life is a system for living to help you do your purpose in the world, overcome the fear, doubt, discouragement, disillusionment that is prevalent in everybody. Everybody has it. It's the resistance that Stephen Pressfield talked about. You'll be happiest when you're doing your work in the world. You'll feel most alive when you're doing your work in the world. And I've also got the purpose, that's coming from the purpose guide that you can get when you sign up to my email. Depending on when you listen to this video, it should be up there fairly shortly. Like 41 ways to know your purpose, because that's the foundation of it all. You want to make sure you're doing your purpose in the world, that God gave you, not what the beast system needs of you, because the beast system needs people to make guns, people to make bombs, people to make drugs and sell drugs, people to deceive and lie to other people. Those are jobs in the beast system. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to be in that. If your mission and my mission, our mission is to create heaven on earth, and our mission is to use our talents in a positive God-like way for God's glory, then you definitely want to be starting from within. What is in your heart and mind, what your talents are, what you're good at, what your ikigai is, what you feel God would do if God were you at this point in time on earth, with your personality, your skill set, your charisma, your character, your attributes, and I think I can't remember whether I said this or not, your perception of the world, like how you see the world, right? It's you're like a unique cocktail in the world. Nobody is going to taste like you or look like you, or that might not be the that's not the best example, but it is a way. You have ingredients inside of you. It's good in a way, maybe not in the way that I used it, but everyone is a unique cocktail made with different ingredients, right? Different qualities, characteristics, and attributes that make us unique and created on purpose by God, right, for this time and space, for what's happening now. You know, people who are making food that is super high vibe with super healthy ingredients, again, to keep the temple running well, and also to give us an experience, right? Good food can taste good as well. Good food for your body can taste good. I mean, it goes without saying, but a lot of people will be like, well, I can't eat healthy because this junk food tastes so good. Well, you've never had healthy food by an enlightened chef before then. I have, and I would rather eat it all day long, because for the main reason, well, there's two reasons. One, I know it's good for my temple, but because an enlightened chef with a creative enlightened chef made it, they made it to taste better than those other things. And also there's no crash afterwards, or there's no fat afterwards. It's like a perfect fuel, but it's also super delicious. It's a win-win, right? God created everyone on earth that when they're in their purpose, it's a win-win. They're the happiest, the most fulfilled, the most satisfied. When you're in your purpose, you're all those things: happy, fulfilled, satisfied, making money, and also people that you're serving, your customers or clients, feel the best as well. That's when you know it's a win-win. You see it on stage if someone's a singer or performer or a comedian or a speaker. When I listen to Malcolm X, one of my favorite people and speakers, I'm moved, I'm inspired, I feel higher vibe. I feel like I'm in the presence of I'll say it, of God. God works through human beings. So I feel like I'm in the presence of God when I'm listening to that man speak. So courageous, so bold, so focused. I feel like I'm in the presence of God when I'm eating some of these foods that are super healthy, but also super delicious. I don't feel like I'm in the presence of God when I'm watching the Fear Fest, all these new series coming out about end of, well, they're dystopian. They're like a post-apocalyptic, people living in bomb shelters. I mean, it's so stupid. It's so stupid knowing that whatever we put in our consciousness is affecting us, every cell in our body, right? What we're thinking about and focusing on. Why would people watch that stuff? Because they're being influenced and pulled away. It's better to go walk in nature or have a conversation with a friend than watch those things. Though they're not relaxing, they induce anxiety and fear. And again, they're predictive programming. We know that. Many people know that now. I don't watch Hollywood movies in the way that I used to. Comedies a little bit here and there, but I'm not going to watch those movies. Anything that makes you feel bad or anxious or fearful is not a good thing to be watching. It's not building you up. You know what I'm saying? Strengthening you. It's weakening you. It's lowering your vibration if you're watching those things or eating that food, right? Or not doing your purpose. Doing your purpose raises a person's vibration so high. I think it might be the best work we can do in this world. You ever see people that are on their purpose? They're glowing. They're almost levitating. And it's not even work because they're so in the flow and in the zone and like tapped in and tuned in. It's like watching God. Like I said earlier, when anyone is doing the work that God sent them here to do, right? If you haven't checked out the first video that I made public, they're all now behind the paywall in One Life at thisismyonelife.com. But the first video on purpose is on the website there. You can check it out. Thisismyonelife.com. And Joseph Campbell talks about slaying your dragon. That's what we all came here to do. Slay our dragon, slay the resistance, right? Or as Napoleon Hill talked about in, what was it? Interview with the Devil? Or yeah, I think it was Interview with the Devil. The devil just wants us to be aimless and distracted and discouraged and addicted and fearful and doubtful and disillusioned. Believe me, I sometimes get in these modes and then I realize, oh no, that's not the way, Mark. You're not doing the work. The work is to maintain your discipline and your courage and your focus and think about how you want. In fact, right before this episode, again, doing the work that is in One Life at thisismyonelife.com, which is getting clear on what your vision is. What is your vision for all 8 areas of your life? Personal, your vision of yourself, right, which is the foundation of everything. Your self-concept. Neville Goddard says when you change your self-concept, everything else will change. Maxwell Maltz talked about it. A lot of people are talking about it now. Pretty much everybody knows now that your identity is key to doing and having the things that you want in life. Who you believe yourself to be, who you think you are, is foundational building block to what you want to do and what you want to have, the life type that you want to have, the lifestyle that you want to have. Super foundational identity. But one of the tools and main core processes of One Life is helping you get clear on your vision in all 8 areas of your life, right? And writing it down, printing it out, reading it often, thinking about it often, because remember, what we think about, we bring about. That's why we don't want to think about negative things. And sometimes, and we can talk about negative things without giving them energy, because like I'm doing in this video, is talking about something shines the light of awareness on it and shows people, hey, this is something. Again, it's like walking down a path, someone's in front of you and the person in front of you said, hey, there's a low branch here, pay attention to it. Shining the light of awareness on what's happening in the world so that we can have a collective better experience. It's all about improving the human experience. It's all about that. in whatever way possible. And this is what Stephen Pressfield talked about in The Artist's Life. If you don't do your work, if I don't do my work, if Stephen Pressfield never did his work, we'd be worse off. We wouldn't have his genius to help us. I keep Stephen Pressfield's book around me a lot when I'm on my game, on my desk when I'm on my game, because the War of Art reminds me, oh yeah, Mark, it is a resistance that's inside of you. It's a resistance to make this video right inside of me right before this. But because I did the work from This Is My One Life, I did the work in One Life at thisismyonelife.com of getting clarity on what I want my vision to be, what's the highest excitement, what's the highest exciting and scary and lucrative and fulfilling and meaningful and satisfying life experience that I want, sounds the most fun, where I'll be the most engaged, the most amused, the most entertained. These are all things that any human being can have, but we have to think about life in that way. We can't think about life in the way of fear and anxiety and failure and frustration and not getting what we want. We have to tap into the life that we want, abundance and prosperity and excitement. And that's all what One Life is. It's a system for living the life that God created for you, that God scripted for you, the most fun, the most helpful, the most engaged, where it's not even work. It's not even work, and you never want to retire, right? Because you have certain skills that God needs you to do to make the world a better place at this point in time, at wherever you're at on earth. And so I go through this process because I get discouraged too. That's why I tell people when I talk about One Life, I'm not just the creator, I'm also the consumer. I made this for me because I want to die having fulfilled my mission, or I want to die in the process of fulfilling my mission. The reality about life is we're never going to fulfill the mission, and we're never going to get it done. Einstein didn't get it done. My understanding is he died working on a lot of different projects and tasks. So that's what I think is going to happen. And you never, you don't want to get to that point in life where you're like, okay, I'm all done. I can stop working now. Because remember, we don't look at work as work. We look at work as an opportunity to do our talent in the world, to be the person God intended us to be, to do the things God intended us to do. That's exciting for a person who's tapped in. It sucks to get up in the morning and go to do something that is not what God intended for you to do, is not using your talents, right? That's when life becomes a hellish experience. And that's why One Life can help you start knowing yourself so you can start turning that ship around, right? It's this life is no joke. It's very challenging. It can be. Again, but even me saying that creates a belief pattern, right? So see, I'm doing the work too, but all these systems, getting your vision down, knowing your why, developing and having a resource list of strategies and tactics, which are predominantly mindset tactics, like mind games you play with yourself. Things like you don't have to do it, you get to do it. Things like drop the balls in other areas, do less, achieve more, focus. You can't scatter your energy into many different things and expect to drill down deeply into your talent, right? The eagle that chases 2 rabbits loses both. I love that proverb. The eagle that chases 6 rabbits loses all 6. The eagle that chases 8 rabbits loses 8. Warren Buffett says, write down your 25 things that you think you should do or you want to do, and then make that list to be 5. And maybe he even says, make that list to be 1. I think you should probably have a thing of 1 thing on your list. City Slickers, when Curly said, said the secret of life is figuring out your 1 thing, right? You got to do that 1 thing above and beyond anything else. That's your priority. That's all of us have a priority. So that's the kind of thing that One Life can help you do, is identify your priority in life. So that when you get to the end of your life, you say, oh my gosh, that was so fun. Right? You die happy. I think that's what God intended for us to do. And I think there's people in this world that want us to die fearful and afraid and sad and mad and angry because we were distracted and disillusioned and, indoctrinated and all these things. I mean, deceived, lied to. I think a lot of people are suffering in this world, and it doesn't have to be that way. Excuse me. But it is a challenge. Like I said, it's challenging to stay on it can be challenging. Any game is challenging. That's what makes it a engaging game. If it was easy and boring, I don't think we would even care to play the game or be here. I don't know. I mean, there's so much growth. This is why my other realization over the last number of years, that the struggle makes you stronger. Playing the game and learning and discovering how to be a better player in the game makes you happier, right? It's a fun game when you do it that way. It's a fun game when you do it like this. Use your mind 80 to 90% by focusing on what you want, who you want to be, the qualities you want to have, the experiences you want to have, empowering thoughts, uplifting thoughts. It's a fun game when you use your mind predominantly. It's not a fun game when you're using your body predominantly, right? If you get your mind right and your state of being right, that's what One Life's all about. It starts with your state of being. To be is to have. Being is your superpower. And being is a state of mind. It's not a state of activity. Or it could be called a state of mental activity, but even then, it's not even really an activity. It's just choosing what you're focusing on, choosing what you're thinking about. I believe this is what Anthony Robbins meant when he said that business is a spiritual game. I think what they mean by spiritual is intellectual, but I find it easier to understand when I say intellectual game, because an intellectual game is thinking a thought about yourself that empowers you or aligns you with what you want or supports the experiences you want to have in life, the results that you want to have. So I would argue that it's more beneficial to say, instead of saying business is a spiritual game or life is a spiritual game, because I don't think a lot of people know what spiritual really is, especially in our world. I think if you said life is an intellectual game or business is an intellectual game or a mental game, I've heard it used that way before. Business is a mental game. Life is a mental game, because Emmett Fox said life is consciousness. Mental is consciousness. You got the conscious and the subconscious. Conscious is what you're thinking about. If you've followed Neville Goddard or read his books, he talks about the conscious mind impregnating the subconscious mind. And also, I think it's called Master I can't remember what the name of that book is titled. It's not Master of the Ages, Master something, not Master Key Principles, but it was one of those books that's more of an esoteric book. And he, again, talks about conscious mind delivering the seed to the subconscious mind, right? I think that's how it happens. As children, we get programmed in a certain way because a thought comes into our mind and we accept it as true. It somehow gets into the mainframe database. Just a random thought, it could be as easy as an adult or older person looking at us in a critical way that we interpret as we are a certain way, right? When all it could be is a misunderstanding about what or it could just be that person's kooky, like this is like at the high end, when you get like a literal crazy parent, a parent with either bipolar, I shouldn't use crazy. I didn't mean it that way. A literal parent with problems and challenges, they then get transferred onto the child, but it can often be a different mix because their dysfunction, their trauma, or dis-ease in the mind can transfer to causes them to act in certain ways. And the child can pick up on these and go, oh, well, maybe my mom or dad doesn't love me. Maybe that's why they're acting like this. Maybe I'm bad. That's why they're acting this way. Well, first of all, the kid would be like, maybe they don't love me. Maybe I'm unlovable. Maybe they don't like me. I'm unlikable, right? Maybe they think I'm bad. I'm a bad kid, or I'm not worthy, or I'm not deserving. All these things but the trauma gets locked in there, and then it just affects all other areas of our life for our whole life. Again, and then we don't become the person God designed us to become. Do the things God designed us to do. Bring the ideas into this world. Turn those ideas into valuable products or services or experiences for people that enlighten them and uplift them and inspire them and encourage them. It's all connected. It's all connected. But again, you can learn more at thisismyonelife.com. Go check it out. I'm super excited about this product. It's always evolving. Again, we do monthly videos, Zoom hangouts, discussions, community type stuff. There's a private Facebook group. There's a private video library, a private audio, or a private document library you have access to with all sorts of resources, valuable tools and little video clips that I find, and bunch of PDFs that will be helpful to you on your journey. Just cool stuff in there, again, to support you as a creator, to help you win the game of life in the way that you came here to play it. So this is myonelife.com. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you, and I will talk to you in the next one. If you like this video, leave me a thumbs up. And until next time, I wish you all the best health, wealth, and success. Have an awesome day.